Hello. Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Great. Grand.
Can you hear yourself in the headphones?
Mm-hmm.
See, I only hear you when you talk. Loud and clear.
Test. Maybe yours does have to be on. I don't know. Maybe the on switch does have to be on.
Any better?
Yeah. There we go. You know what?
Yeah.
Broken clock. Good thing I'm recording that.
Hey, Biff. Why did the jelly beans go to school?
I don't know. Why do the jelly beans go to school?
They wanted to be smarties.
Ha 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 ha. Oh. Tell me another joke there.
Hey, Biff. Hey, Biff.
Yeah.
What's the difference between Jesus and a hooker?
Oh, you got me on that one. Cha-cha-cha.
A hooker doesn't hang around after they get nailed.
You told that joke. No.
Did I?
Yeah.
Did I?
Yes.
Ah.
Yeah, you told that joke last week.
Well, did you break character?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I didn't have a character last week because Biff was here. Anyway.
Really? I thought you were just doing a spot on Biff.
Aha. That's wacky old Jacques over there. At it again. This is Joe, and you're listening to
Carnival Personnel Podcast. How are you, Joe?
Whatever. I mean, you know.
We were trying to do a side show this week, a scheduling thing, so we will be doing a couple side shows coming up. Very excited about it, but the last couple weeks scheduling has been a nightmare. Plus, I have not been on my A game when it comes to having my head out of my butt and scheduling things more than a couple hours in advance, which is why Biff is not with us today.
Right.
You know, I conned Joe into coming over to do a podcast so I can really make him help me write better material for stand-up and, you know.
He lured me over with chocolates and these, what are these called? Chips?
Queso dip.
Queso dip, yes.
And Totitos.
Tostitos.
I knew I was leaving out a couple.
Not to be confused with Totinos, which are those little, pizza pocket things. Also a very funny sketch with Kirsten Stewart and Heidi Gardner. Remember that one?
I do.
Yeah.
Anything snack related kind of gets stuck in my head, for quite some time.
Anything snack related gets stuck in my heart. But go on.
So, comedy update. So Joe is going to be sticking around. I have two shows coming up. When I say right down the street, I mean the one tonight as this place called Epigram Brewery in Tingsboro, Massachusetts. I think it's exactly like 4 miles door to door, one turn, like turn out a driveway, get to the end of the street, go over the bridge. It's right there. But I'm very excited because Epigram Brewery is in this, where it is, used to be, I think when we first moved here, 2017, like a dog hotel type thing, a doggy daycare, very big place, but it was shuttered for like 3 years, maybe 4 years. And driving by a couple years ago, they started, turning it into what now is Epigram, and been trying to get a show there for absolutely ever. So this is the first show under the mic'd up comedy umbrella of Mike Katrobis. I'll be hosting. Mike is on the show, as is another former guest of this podcast, Mr. Colton. So Jim Colton, who allegedly went to the same college, the same 4 years I did, but none of our friends in each other's orbits have ever heard of each other, which is weird because it's not a big college. Honestly, Middlesex Community College, probably 4 times the size.
Right, but you also have to factor in you have to factor in that you didn't attend class. So, you had to be on campus at the same time that he was on campus. You know, you were at like a rundown shack that was
Heaven.
yes,
Heaven.
It was a little on the fringe though. It was out of the orbit, like you say.
What, One Pearl Street, where we lived rent free for several years,
just like you do in my head.
So, and Jim's great. Jim's a really fun comic. I think it might be the first time I'm actually working with him. Maybe when he was first on the podcast is because we had done Lunar Theater together, but it's definitely the first time I think since he was on the podcast, and that's well over a year ago. So that should be a lot of fun. And then Mike tells me another place is one of those American Legions or VFWs that's a mile and a half from here that I drive by at least twice a day. No, I drive by it 4 times a day, driving my kid to school and coming home, and then driving to pick him up and coming home. And that was shut for a year plus, and it just reopened. And somehow Mike has some kind of fundraiser there, and it's right down the street. So that's another show coming up. But yeah, I'm pretty psyched about that. But this week was an interesting week because I was part of 2 very small shows that both ended up being awesome. The first one, Mike Katrobis has, it's called Sidebar. It's up in Hampton, New Hampshire. It's one of these, it is a bar inside a bigger restaurant called Community Oven or something like that. A nice restaurant, 150, maybe seats 200 people, but they have a bar in the back, separate entrance and stuff that at capacity holds 26, 30-ish people. And this was maybe the 3rd or 4th time. It's every other week thing. And the other ones have gone well. This one, there was 6 comedians. There was 5 comedians and myself hosting this. And when the show started, there was 2 very nice people sitting there who were not there to see the show, who sometimes pop in to have their pizza.
Oh, okay. I thought they were like, waiting for some sort of like a charter bus or something, or they thought it was they thought they were in the RMV, or which is what we call the DMV in Massachusetts. Sorry, folks.
I don't know what it's called in New Hampshire, but a couple of the shows that have happened there so far have been capacity and a lot of fun. And this one was not capacity, but it was a lot of fun. It truly was. 2 other people showed up just before the show started. So there was a bartender and 4 people and the 5 comics. Now,
and you saved on electricity because you didn't have to plug in the mics.
So 5 of the 6 comics used the mic. 1 did not. And I will get to that one who did not in just a minute. But it was a great learning lesson. I hope it was a learning lesson. I admittedly will say, because there was only a couple people when the show started and all comics, I did not go down the list of rules about turning your phone off and not having talk at the table, and just kind of went into it. And somebody was very taken back by that. The next comic who went up, who had a 10-minute set and spent the first 4 minutes talking about what a shitty host I am. And not in a fun, funny way, to the point where the other comics, all of whom I know very, very well, are looking at him and looking at me. It's like, is there something going on with you guys that we don't know about? And I was a little taken back by it, but it is what it is. And then at the 9-minute mark, I like this comic, letting them know they got 1 minute left. And again, spends the last minute of their set saying what a shitty host I am because he didn't know how much time he had. And explaining to the 2 people, I don't think the other 2 had shown up yet, maybe they had, that I should have told him how much time he had at the beginning, so he knows all this. And everybody else is like kind of looking at the guy like, what is his fucking deal?
Yeah, I mean, that's weird, because if he hadn't brought up all that behind the scenes stuff, they wouldn't have known or cared, and they probably still didn't care.
Still didn't. And what was awesome is, so I went up, and I said, unnamed person, I said, who likes impressions? And yeah, everybody, both the people there. And then I said, here's my impression of me calling this other comic the next time I'm hosting this show or I know of an opening. okay, so our next comic up, and made it really clear in a very funny way that I won't be going out of my way.
Fuck that comic.
Not only will I not be going out of my way to work with this guy, not that I did in the first place.
Okay, so we know it's a guy.
Darn it. Yeah, you know what? There was only one female. I don't know what I was going to say, but it was fun. Now, my friend James Hamilton went up, did great, and Zach went great. Then the headliner or closer, because it's not really a headliner at this thing, but we had a legit headliner, fan of the show and a mentor to all in this community. You know, the one, the only, the great Mr. Stephen Bjork, who did not use a mic. He just walked over to the table, stood between them, and had the most hysterical 20, 25-minute conversation with these people.
Wow. See, that's the way to do it. That's what a pro does. They think outside the box. They get intimate. They relate immediately with the audience. They make them feel comfortable. They deliver a good time. They don't go up there like a whiny bitch and complain that they weren't prompted properly or that you didn't prompt the audience for their arrival. Okay, whatever. So yeah, that's the difference between a rookie and a pro. And Steve Bjork is not the rookie. Thank you.
Yeah, he weaved into the conversation a lot of his regular material, but in a really conversational way. It was just a different approach. You've seen his bit about how you're not supposed to bring bananas on boats. And just not doing crowd work, but talking to these people. And one of the two gentlemen there is a boat captain, like a fishing boat. Like you could go out to do tours. Like it's not a fishing boat. Like that's his whole job. It's taking yahoos who want to fish out, and which just opened the door. He didn't go in there thinking he was going to do this routine tonight, and just had a real conversation with a boat captain about the absurdity.
Wow.
And it was fantastic. It was yet again our 10-minute drive both ways, setting up the gear, all more than worth it, because I treated it like an open mic. There's 3-4 new bits that I'm working on, and that's all I did is the new stuff. I like hosting and having fun and getting better at doing that. But 100%, if I wasn't on the show, it would have been worth the drive back and forth to see Steve give these 4 people a show of a lifetime.
Right. And with those 4 people in the audience, you've doubled the reach of the audience for this podcast.
You're mean.
Yes.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm just saying you're mean.
Now, if those 4 people know about the podcast, and then they listen, and then they tell 2 friends.
And then so on.
And so on.
So the next show was an OMP production.
OMP, of course, being Open
Mic Pain.
Yes.
Open Mic. Shouldn't it be OMPP? Open Mic Pain Podcast, or just OMP?
Well, they don't. I mean, OMP. Like, not everybody has to put podcast at the end of their initial title, because Carnival personnel all by itself apparently means something else initialed online. That's why we have, we have to put the podcast over. Not everything has to have podcast.
Yes, for a while we didn't have the second, we
didn't have the
podcast.
Yeah. And then if you were, depending on who's uploading the data for our podcast, it could be CCP, or if they're Russian, it could be CCCP.
It could be OPP.
Yes, right. But yes, OMP, Open Mic Pain Productions, which that's their production company.
Yeah, shouldn't it be OMPPP podcast? Shut up, Jacques. Yeah, anyways, so look, let's start with the positives. Let's start with the best part of the show is fucking piece of shit Anthony Eugenio not there. The Open Mic Pain is 2 people, but really it's 1. And the great Wayne Russell was there. It was a fun show. I think it was yet another time that Wayne has a show and working really hard to get as many people there as we can. And I think Anthony was hosting some 175-seater that he really felt the need to send pictures of to us. I don't want to say a dick move, but I would have done the exact same.
When you said he wasn't there, I thought immediately, oh, typical Portuguese guy laying about, not doing a damn thing, lifting a finger for nobody.
Or ice got him. You don't know. Which
we're close enough. As a Portuguese man myself, I am not. I'm looking over my shoulders. That's what you say. I'm looking over both.
Joe, I'm telling you right now, you got to relax. You're safe, because if they haven't taken my tips and phone calls at this point, but it was a fun show. The comics were great. Our friend Carlos C was there. Wayne and Anthony have a friend who came all the way down from Maine, a friend that Anthony has met on the Maine open mic circuit. Really, really good guy named Nate Curran. Super, super fun. The young Prince of Comedy, Mr. Ethan Prince, was there as well. So was his dad, who didn't go up. And we would have, but Ethan and his dad went down the street to another 170 person function that Mike Katrobis was at. Honestly, it was like 1.5 miles away. And so Robbie, Prince went over there after Ethan got done and did a setup there. But we had a great time.
What's it like to be flanked by success?
Dude, you're right. Mike over there doing that. Yeah. Anthony doing a huge show. But no, Wayne and I had a blast. Again, treated it like essentially an open mic. I took the Steve Bjork advice, where start with a couple bits that usually work, because, not every joke works in every room around the world. There might be some people who think, oh, I have this joke that works everywhere around the world. And nobody has a joke that works everywhere around the world. You got to be complete, delusional asshole to ever say something like that. So, but Steve has this theory that if he's working out new material, he likes to go with the safe stuff up front. So if the new material doesn't work, it's easier to dig out of a hole, because you've already built up some credibility with the folks that, oh, he's funny, maybe this part. That's exactly what I did. I got to go on Lash, which, a huge shout out again to Wayne, because I did almost 20 minutes. Super fun. And again, maybe there was 12-ish, 15 people in the room, but they were all having a great time. They were all dialed in, very... not interactive, but if I pointed to somebody and said, where are my parents, and I'm not doing crowd work, but I'm engaging with them, and it was really fun. It truly was a great show. Excuse me. So that, and then also to see Wayne work out some new material, and it was really funny because, Wayne just talked on his podcast. We did a show a couple of weeks ago where he did a really good bit in the really wrong room, which we all make that mistake. Every one of my bits is wrong and every room is wrong. So, right. But it was great to see.
You shouldn't have done your Kill Whitey routine in front of the Republican convention.
Kill the white people. Was that Eddie Murphy's first year on SNL?
I think it was. I think that was his first sketch.
Oh, and it was he was introduced by Tim Kazurinsky, the great Tim Kazurinsky.
Yes.
One of the few, if maybe the only person in SNL history who has never auditioned for SNL. They just called him and said, no, Mike Myers was the other one. Said,
wow.
Can you come and do this show? So,
okay.
Interesting. Anyways, yeah, so Wayne put on one heck of a show. And it's tough. It was pulling teeth. It was Manchester on a Saturday night. The bar supported it. OMP, did promote it post, put it all out there. But there are just some shows that it's hard to get people to, and that's not, yes, Mike has all these great shows, but there's been several shows that Mike's had, and that everybody has. People have shows that they're like, well, like, again, we had 4 people need to pay tickets up. That was on Tuesday, and then this was on Friday. So it was great. Again, to have seen Steve, and we've been in rooms with Steve that are huge rooms and Steve that are smaller. And every time you get to see him work or somebody like that work, that was kind of in my head to make it less of a big show and more of a conversation with these few people.
Yeah.
So it was a great week of comedy.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that. By the way, it's been. I just want to mark this occasion because this is the first time in I think a long while we've done back-to-back weekly regular podcast that wasn't interrupted by a boring sideshow with a boring guest that isn't us.
Well, that's because I promised a co-host and I wouldn't make him do a show every week, and I've lied. I mean, because
Yep.
how can you tell when Jacques lying? His lips are moving. So, but it's also, like I said,
it's all part of the plan. It's boiling the frog, as they say.
Well, I see over Joe's shoulder.
I've also want to let you know that he took away my reproductive rights last week too. So he's not kidding. He's moving fast. Project 2025A for Project Carl Personnel.
So yeah, but I'm looking over Joe's shoulder and I put these like reminders up on the wall of all the projects I'm supposed to do. It's like the Titus show. Yeah, Joe has to help with that. Stand up, he has to help with that. We got to work on my website. And by we, I mean you. The Get a Life podcast. Maybe we'll do an episode of that as soon as we're done. The only one up there that doesn't directly relate to Joe being here is the Choose to Be Thin, which you have taken note to that one, but I have not. But moving on, I had fun starting to do my kids' taxes this week, and I know you just finished yours. Was it a lot of fun? Do you do everybody in the house's taxes or just yours?
I do our tax, like mine and my wife's taxes, and I do my son. I kind of help my older son, with his taxes. My younger son is still a dependent student, not working, no W-2 to be seen. So nothing there, but then I also do my mom's taxes. She's older, she's like a much older person, octogenarian, as they say.
Oh, so, she's hit 80.
Yes. Oh, yes. No, she's almost at Back to the Future 88.
Wow.
I think she's like 86, so she'll be 87 this year.
Don't use that
God
number.
Either way, 86.
Your mom.
Yeah, too late. So we do, but and thanks for asking because we did actually we had a refund this year, so that's nice. The past couple of years we've had refunds. That's probably because we've been living so paycheck to paycheck. I've put a lot of exceptions on my income so that the government takes more than enough than they could possibly spend, and then they give it back to me at the end of the year. For now. So we'll see. I think this might be the last year I get a refund. I don't know. We'll see how things go. But what about you?
Well, the fun thing is, I do the taxes for our 17-year-old, and this is the first year he's kind of been paying attention to certain things because he keeps hearing about like Social Security and stuff, and he's like, "Do I pay Social Security?" And I'm like, dude, you've been paying it for 3 years.
Right.
And I've shown him on his check. It's like, he is technically in his third year as a lifeguard for the city. And he's also had other lifeguard working for a school. Anyways, yes, he has seen. And he's like, so I'm not going to get this. I'm like, if certain people have their way with it, no, and it's hard to explain like the back and forth, why it was started, how it's been abused over the
decades.
80 years.
Yeah,
the people, different people in the government have been using it to fund other projects, and
to use it as a wedge issue to
correct.
Say like, well, look at all the wasteful spending that we're putting we're just giving money away to these old, poor losers that aren't contributing anymore.
Which was the whole point of it. The whole point of it is they paid into it. And we're not going to get into like the abuse that has been reported, wildly over-exaggerated. There's no 183-year-old people getting Social Security.
Well, some of these 2-year-olds are getting Social Security. Oh, wait, those are the benefits that they receive because their parents have died, and then that's going to
how dare they?
Yeah,
it's about time. Well, look, in the state of Florida, they can now get jobs.
Yeah,
like there are no labor laws for children anymore. And and I've explained to my oldest one, yes, your grandmother was completely dependent on it when we moved back to this country, and how little that she actually got for a lifetime of paying into it.
Yeah,
and they make it sound And then, we went down the rabbit hole of like, what the average person gets on it.
I see what my mother gets for her Social Security because I do her taxes.
Right.
And if she didn't have a pension and savings and all this other shit, I'd be like, God damn, like
one of your two sons would have a bunk bed in their room is basically what it would be, and hopefully, and they're both good kids. So hopefully they would let grandma have the lower bunk climbing up would just be a hazard. Then she'd hit her head because of the angled roof.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, right.
It's a thing.
Yeah,
so
you got to think ahead. You really have to plan ahead for these things.
So it was, so doing his taxes, and it's simple. He had 2 W-2s. But it's nice, it's nice that he is starting to understand. It's like, this is why you have to pay attention to stuff. This is not off in the distance. These, even though you can't vote for another year, no, he could vote come September if there was the next election. He can vote in, the midterms. He can vote in the midterms.
Well, I mean, there are also local elections.
Oh yeah, no, with that guy running for dog catcher here in Lawanda.
Do they even have dog catcher? What are they called now?
Animal control.
Animal control.
Animal control.
Yeah.
I call him Phil because we're close. I got to know. Campaign hard for him.
I mean, you guys are basically dog catchers.
You know what? You feel good.
You have to catch them because they're falling because they only have one leg.
Look.
Why do they fall, Bruce?
They only have one leg. Like, we have a 3-legged cat, a 3-legged dog, and a 2-legged dog. We do not have any 1-legged dogs.
Right. Just odd number of legs.
Which, when I do that joke and it doesn't work, and I always been like, come on, people, these are the jokes.
They don't like to do math.
Good dog like that, you'll eat 1 leg at a time.
Hi-oh.
Anyways.
They're eating the dogs.
Yeah, so tax season has been super fun.
It hasn't been taxing. All right, I'll leave.
Medical season has been super fun, which, by the way, SNL did have a great skit this past Saturday about it was a CNN type thing, but it was check to check news, and it was a CNN thing about it. It was so unhelpful and soul crushing how accurately funny it was.
Oh, man.
And when you watch it, the stock ticker at the bottom, you kind of have to.
Yes, it's a visual gag. Yeah,
have to watch, but again, it really hit home how.
Yeah. That reminds me, I have to check what my 401k looks like. I'm sure it's fine.
I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
I did. Look, some people lost a lot of money last week. The on again, off again tariffs and the threats, and some people made a lot of money. You can name those people in one hand, and they made a shitload.
And a lot of them are in Congress.
Or
in the cabinet.
I personally did. Make a little investing into the rickety stool and rope stores.
Oh my
God!
That I heard they were sold out.
Dude,
they're going hotter than the Switch 2s.
Which you can't even get in this country.
No,
you can get on a plane, go to Japan.
You can get the Switch 2. You know what? The thing about the one in Japan is, I guess there's like a Japan only model that's region locked to Japan. That's like cheaper than the regular Switch models, the Switch 2 model.
Can you explain what region locked is?
So it basically means that you can only play games that are programmed for that country's region. Like remember how DVDs used to be region locked? You couldn't play a UK DVD and an American DVD player. Same thing with the Switch. Although this current Switch is region free, you play a Japanese or European Switch game in an American Switch console, but they're now introducing for Switch 2 a lower priced Japan only region locked Switch 2 that will only play Japanese, and like the OS is only going to be in Japanese. Like you can't switch it to English. I don't know, some weird shit. And then that's cheaper, but there'll be just like that's in the US, a region free Switch 2 that will be substantially more in price. It'll be like $400 and something. But yes, in any case, we can't get a Switch 2 because it'll be very expensive comparatively to what we paid for the Switch when it came out just 7 years ago. Yeah, it was like $300 something bucks.
I only know what region and region locks is because when DVDs and Blu-ray started, I owned a company that did a bunch, and that kind of really put a damper in the collectors, the way people collected music, because when Pixies in the 80s would put out an album, a lot of people didn't know the way to get the different regions to buy the releases there, because that's the English wanted like the sales and their territories in Japan and everywhere else. So you would have different B-sides and collecting 45s and collecting singles and even collecting albums. So if you got,
there'll be like one song on the Japanese release that
Correct.
Isn't available anywhere else.
And when you listen to, you ever see interviews with, again, bands like the Pixies, and they would talk about that. Yeah. Generally, the consensus was you had to have 10 songs on an album, usually 11, sometimes 12, but you had to have 10. But they would have to go in and record 16, 17, different songs. And that's why you find some really well-produced cover songs by different bands over the years.
Yeah.
Because it was only going to be on the B-side of the Japan release or the B-side, of an Australian release. But when CDs came out, and people would travel and stuff like that and try to collect them, and then they bring them home and they wouldn't play in their CD players or their DVD players and stuff like that. It really became a big, pain in the butt, which didn't kill the market, but it really put a damper on trying to collect. And I will say, what was really fun is I'm going back 15 years, at least 10 years. Yeah, maybe. Anyways, the 25th anniversary of the Doolittle album, the quintessential Pixie album. Great show in LA, smaller venue, and a lot of younger people who had heard a couple singles, the later singles of them, were in front of the stage, and a bunch of dinosaurs like me in the back. And the whole thing is, bands now do these, playing the whole album start to finish of, like, I just took my son to see Weezer, and they did the Blue album at the Garden a little while ago. They started the show by doing all the B-sides to everything that got released. And the second or third song in, the bass player says, hey, why don't you guys switch places now? And, and so the people who know the songs we're playing, because we like to look down and see people singing along. So anyway, so that no one needed that tangent, but yes, we did. Yeah, but one
more tangent on region locking. When DVDs, when TV shows on DVDs would come out, there would be UK releases of TV shows that included the original soundtrack, like licensed music that weren't included on the US versions of those same DVD releases. And so, like, for me, I did this. I bought the UK versions of Quantum Leap seasons 2 and 3 because they included, episodes that had licensed music. And for some reason, they replaced the music in the US, but not the UK. So I bought the UK versions. But then to play them on my, US devices, I had to take like an external DVD player or an external DVD drive that hooks up to a computer, and you can change the region on the external like up to 4 times before it gets locked permanently in that region. So I had like a UK dedicated device that I only used to rip the DVDs and then burn back into the US. I'm a nerd. Sad nerd.
Doing the Lord's work is how I like to put
I
it.
had to have those authentic, original broadcast versions of Quantum Leap in my possession, untainted by meddling corporate hands.
And what's funny is Soft Cell's "Tainted Love" was one of the songs that was on the UK version,
yes,
not on the US version. And you can look that up and tell me if I'm making it up, because I don't know. I think I'm making it up, but there's a really good chance that Soft Cell's "Tainted Love" did wind up on Quantum Leap.
Yes.
But I was going to say, so I started this tangent by talking about a fun week in medical stuff. I'll do the long story short. luckily I hit the point where my doctor says, "Oh, you're obese. You should be on one of these diet things." 6 months later, and then
it was Wake Up Little Susie. Oh, sorry. No. That's just for me and Jacques. Like this podcast.
And the other 4 people you mentioned. But it's so funny because I didn't want to. And then I played the shell game of I had to call my insurance and see what they covered. And they covered, B and C, but not A. And then it had to be written for this. And then in a 2-week period of time, they don't cover B anymore, but now they cover A and C. So it had to be rewritten. And then it truly took 6 months to get into, the special weight loss thing at, through the insurer. Had to go and meet with them. It's all humiliating, embarrassing. They write something. I'm like, okay, incredibly low dosage. And I'm like, will this even work? And they're like, no, not really, but you have to start with this and work up. Yeah, that was over a month ago. And it's like, oh yeah. So the insurance that covered that now doesn't. So we're going to have to, I'm like, are you supposed to go? It was like, and then, so here's something I found out you're not supposed to say when you're having a conversation with healthcare providers. You're like, yeah, we need to start this process all over again. And I guess you're not to say, no, I just rather die.
Yeah. Right.
Like they're like, you can't make those jokes. We have to write that down. I'm like, well, I'm not doing it. I'm not going through all this again. It's taken 6 months. And I did say another thing you're not supposed to say. It's like, I don't condone violence, but I am wearing a Luigi t-shirt. And whether it was Luigi Mario t-shirt, because apparently that's Luigi's last name.
The Mario Brothers. Hello.
Hey, look, that name's so nice. He had to give it to him twice. Mario. So maybe I'm
like Boutros Ghali.
Right. Thank you. Is he still dead?
Can you do an impersonation of him? Thank you.
Oh, wait. See, that was my impersonation of calling the other comic who ridiculed me the next time I had an opening. They sound so much alike.
Yeah. And you do have a broad range of impersonations.
I'm not taking the bait in doing a broad's voice now, which is what you were trying to get me to do.
Nope, that's your misogynism.
Just
misogyny.
Rearing its ugly.
Oh, man.
Misogyny
I think I'm
head
having a
again.
stroke.
Yeah. So it was it's a bit of thing, and yeah, I'll die. Anyway.
We all have to someday.
So let's get to sport. Now, you and I 100% agree the only reason the Patriots won any game in those 20 years is they cheated every single game. It wasn't great coaching. It wasn't great quarterback. It was 100% cheating. And the
as
fix was
Norm Macdonald would say, dirty, dirty cheaters.
So over the last few years, I'm really good friends with somebody who 40 years has been a Kansas City Chiefs season ticket holder, lives in Phoenix the last 30 years of their life, but goes back home where his 2 brothers and his parents lived, to go to 1 or 2 games a year, but they've had these season tickets. He's 60-ish, but he's had tickets in his name over 40 years. And they're one of those franchises when they've had lean times, and I mean horrible most of their existence. They had 1 playoff win when Joe Montana went with them in the mid-'80s, and they hadn't had a playoff win 10, 15 years before that, and hadn't had a playoff win 20 years after that before they got really good, like the late teens. And so my friend has been dealing with the angst the rest of the other 31 cities have about you're cheating, you get all the calls, the league likes you. And I've been not going to jump on that bandwagon, having seen what the Patriots have endured all that time. But the Kansas City Chiefs have a few really, really, really insane statistical anomalies. And without looking it up, it's something insane. Like Patrick Mahomes has had something like 78 out of like 90 interceptions overturned on penalties. Where the second closest person was like Josh Allen, who had like 1/19th, like had 3 overturned like on penalties. Well, there's been a couple egregious things. I didn't watch a lick of football this year, lick of American football, I should say. But I kept hearing, and I would see clips that would come up on my feed, that the Kansas City Chiefs won a great number of games on the last play of the game. And the second to last play of the game, they were stopped and magically got a call that went their way that they then
15-yard penalty, first down kind of thing.
Yep. That now they're in field goal range, or now, it was fourth and, it was fourth and Edelman, and they don't have Edelman, and they pick up a first down, and then the next play they score a touchdown as there's no time. 3 different officials from 3 different of those games have been let go by the NFL.
Interesting.
This week. Yeah. They haven't been fired, but they've been demoted to, I guess reffing is all under one umbrella. So they've been demoted to college. Like basically they can't ref NFL games. And I only know this because it came up. So I don't really follow many sports things. The sports things that come up on my timeline are all, real football clips, I'll say. And, like glorious hockey clips from the 70s and the 80s.
Yes.
Right. And it was interesting to see a number of high profile people breaking down. It's like, well, they didn't say this was the play or this was the play, but the one common thing all 3 of them have is they were all, and one of the calls wasn't from the official, but like a line judge 30 yards down the field, 3 seconds after the play throws a flag. And why the head umpire didn't say, well, we're going to pick that one up, but a lot of the stuff can't be replayed. There's like, you can't
challenge within 2-minute warning and all that.
So all of these things, but yeah, three of them have and made those last second calls, and I'm not like saying that's a reason. They have a great coach. They have a great quarterback. They have a great tight end who has a girlfriend who's a national treasure. So,
I mean, there was that video of the 3 referees carrying Mahomes across the goal line.
Goal line, indeed.
Yeah. Remember that? You remember when that the tortoise versus the hare cartoon?
Yes.
And then the tortoises were, it was the rabbits that were carrying the turtle dressed as the rabbit across the line.
And that's how he fooled them all.
Yes. Yes.
There was that great Family Guy where they threw the ball to the mascot because there's no rules. It says the mascot can't come on the field. And nowhere in the rule books does it say
an elephant can't pitch.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, well, we'll have to keep an eye on that. I wonder if they'll have a 30 for 30 on that at some point.
It's funny you say that because there's very often I wait for those.
Yeah.
Like, when does a documentary come out about this?
Yeah. I mean, and you've said this before about your management, is that they don't like sports. She doesn't like sports, but she loves sports documentaries.
And movies.
Yeah.
Like, she saw The Blind Side 3 times in the theater. I had no interest of seeing it. Still don't.
Didn't that? What was
yes.
It? Yes. Didn't that get recently canceled?
When that movie came out, I had a friend who worked for the Ravens at the time. And Michael Orr is the player's name, who was not thrilled that he was exploited. And in the movie, if you kind of even read between the lines, this great, white Christian saviors took the kid in, and they weren't thinking he's going to go to the pros. People have to understand, if your life is college football, that's all that matters. Like, that they don't give a fuck about, if you played at Clemson and you won a national title and went on to win 5 Super Bowls, they can't tell you any of your Super Bowl stats. They just know your time at Clemson. And so the mother and the father both met whatever university. They were boosters of that school, and basically it's like, hey, we have this lottery ticket that we're going to make sure goes to this school type thing. Mm-hmm. And it's a movie, things got exaggerated, but he was really against the movie coming out. And ever since then, he's He's had a hard time. He's
wasn't he like not compensated for his likeness or something?
They gave him a mattress and a walk-in closet. And
okay.
Why isn't that enough for him?
Quit your whining.
You're right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. On the outs with the family almost. Mm-hmm. And I think he got wise to it in college. It's like, oh, that's what this is really all about. Wow. They weren't after it for, well, he'll get to the NFL and we'll get some NFL money. They're like, no, we're going to get him to play for our college. Anyways.
But yeah, I'm hoping that there's a documentary on these dirty referees.
Well, I mean, it's funny. In European football, there's been a couple. Here's something funny. Well, not funny, but a member of the United States men's national team is now under investigation for sports betting, but in Italy, in Series A, which is the league that he plays in, there's 15 players around European football right now who are going through it because they're all under investigation. And it used to be hard to place bets. You used to have to know somebody. You used to have to go, like, physically you couldn't place bets for other people in casinos and stuff like that and bookies. But now I think there's probably more like DraftKings type apps than there are dating apps. And, but here's something really funny. It sounds absurd, but it's worth the looking up. There was a very high-profile referee in La Liga, which we all know is the league in Spain.
Yes.
And he is now one of those talking head correspondent type people. So he was doing an interview last year, and he has a parrot that would not stop singing the Real Madrid song.
Oh my God.
And it's one of those things where he's had a lot of games like that he's ref for Real Madrid where it's 0-0, they're down 2-1, and there's a free kick that was maybe a questionable call or a penalty kick given, later in the game, type thing. And he's trying to get the bird to shut the fuck up because it's teams' songs are it's like he's singing Sweet Caroline, type thing. And you can't have a umpire who's taught the bird, his bird has swings Sweet Caroline if he's doing the ALCS between the Yankees and Red Sox and calling Game 7, type thing. So that's fun to look up. But yeah, I mean that's another knock that I've had on sports is the number over the last few years of refs who have been busted in basketball. Yeah. And there's one famous ref who has said, yeah, I got busted, but you think I'm the only one? And the big thing that he was found guilty of is point shaving.
Right.
Yeah. It's like the team that you're supposed to, this team is expected to win by 8 points and they're only going to win by 6 in a phantom call. It's, send somebody to the line for 2 shots with like no time left. Type thing. So it is hard to kind of overlook that. I will say what was really funny is management today watched the entire second half of Chelsea and Ipswich in the Premier League. She didn't know it. Yeah. Like I was doing stuff in the living room and I had the game on. I watched the first half. And as you know, surprisingly, Chelsea was down 2-0 at halftime. I came downstairs to set all this stuff up. She was just sitting on the couch on her phone. And I was like, are you watching this? And she looked up and goes, I didn't know this was still on. And it was in stoppage time in the second half. And I'm like, I said, well, it's a 2-2 game now. I mean, Chelsea came back. I can, I think she secretly was watching it and she just wanted to.
She probably just had some money on it.
Oh, so enough of that. What are you watching, Joe?
I am still watching The Righteous Gemstones. It's like my only real modern show that I'm keeping up with live. Doesn't disappoint week after week. I don't know how they do it. They're keeping up the quality of that show for their final season. So I'm enjoying that on Max. I canceled Netflix, so I don't know what the new hotness is on Netflix. I mean, again, we've talked about streaming fatigue for so long that, but there's no real. I'm not into White Lotus. Like that was.
I watched season 1, and it's horrible. It's a great show. I get it, but it's really rich people being really horrible to poor people, and being rewarded for it.
Yep.
And that's the thing. It's like white people going to these resorts in different places,
but then it ends up somebody dies or murdered or something like that. So whatever.
Right. The worst and the people.
You don't have to get into the details.
Horrible. I couldn't. And people are like, "Oh, season 2 even got better." I'm like, I bet it did.
Mm-hmm.
I won't know.
Are you watching season 2 of Andor, or is that not out yet?
It's not out yet, but I definitely. And that's
because my wife's been rewatching Andor season 1.
So the most amazing thing about Andor season 1, and for the uninitiated, as Joe likes to say, Rogue One considered the second best Star Wars movie, and the original 10.
Yes. Oh, you're not counting the original 10.
So Rogue One is the prequel to Chapter 4, A New Hope.
Yes. In fact, it goes right into the 4th movie.
I've never seen a movie end so well at another. The only time I've ever seen that is I think it's like the Born Supremacy, like from 2 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
It ends. 3 picks up.
Right.
Like they shot the opening scene.
Well, what about Back to the Future Part 2? Hello? It picks up where the one left off with a different actress, of course, playing Jennifer, the girlfriend to Marty. Anyway, but
and a different dad? No, same dad, but
no, it was
different likeness.
Yeah. And also, we're getting back to Rogue One. Yeah, like that was when that occurred, and I saw that. I think I felt, and I think I felt that same feeling that people must have felt when they first saw the scene where Darth Vader reveals that he was Luke Skywalker's father. That's sort of like, what? Like that kind of, that feeling. But surprise.
The original trilogies, if there's not a flaw, but things that got wildly improved on was lightsaber fights.
Mm-hmm.
The lightsaber battles in the trilogy, not stunning.
No.
They got better from 4 to 5 to 6.
Right. They actually incorporated real martial artistry in the later movies.
But the last scene in Rogue One is the first time you see Darth Vader as, oh fuck. I mean, just
chilling. Right.
And you see it from the other perspective. Yeah. You see it from.
You see him coming at you in full Vader mode, no holds barred. He's getting these fucking plans come hell or high water.
I will say, I'm going to brag a little about my impressive, educational pedigree at film school at the great Fitchburg State College.
Now university.
Thank you. We watched the first reel of A New Hope with no sound mix, just the ambient noise, and you could just hear them walking on plywood things, and there's and just people throwing themselves back, getting shot.
It's like
right. No Wilhelm screams in there.
Yeah, you're hearing.
Yes, and you're hearing the original Darth Vader.
All right,
who did not know
he was not going to voice Darth Vader. Yeah. And he had sort of like a higher, was he like a higher pitched fellow?
It's like one of those things where the number of great careers went to die when the talkies came out.
Right.
He was an impressive figure. He's a tall gentleman and walked with a very commanding,
imposing. Yes.
But
gate.
But they didn't tell him they were doing anyways.
Yeah.
So Rogue One, Rogue One is great. And it's one of those things, and we talked about this when Bill Fay was on the podcast.
This also started with an Andor thing, but go on.
But everybody died.
Yes.
Everybody
spoilers
died. And Rogue One, the Titanic. But what if there's an air bubble? And so like the same thing. Why hasn't there been a sequel to The Departed?
Uh-huh.
So it was amazing that they do Andor, which is a spin-off. Now they could have spin off a couple characters, but they went with Cassian, and it was the first Star Wars series. 0 lightsabers,
0 Jedi.
You never even heard the term Jedi. Jedi was never mentioned. It wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Like there's no even veiled reference to it other than,
just the way the Empire likes it.
But it was amazing that they put together a series that was so good with none of that. Just so I'm very looking. Season 1 was great.
I'll have to watch it now.
And so season 2, but I will. So akin to Darth Vader at the end of Rogue One, there is a scene in The Mandalorian, and it's the only time on the screen that you see Luke Skywalker in a very similar setting. It's the last episode, and
oh great, we're rescued.
Right, you see one X-wing fighter, and everybody sarcastically, and the bad guys have an army of. Were they T2s or were they what was the step above the T2?
The T1000. Yeah. Are you talking about the like those robots, droids? Yeah,
right. That were just these.
Right. Yeah, they're like Battle Droid Plus. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there was a scene where the Mandalorian, who is a seasoned warrior, had to fight one of these, and he needed every device, everything in Batman's utility belt was used in that fight. And the guy who invented those, the guy who oversaw it, why can't I mention, think of his Grand Admiral's name? Anyways, he had pointed out, it's like, you think how you had to fight one of those, and Luke takes on 20.
Yeah.
And he just walks through them like they're paper mache, and you can see that's the only time on screen that you see what a badass Luke Skywalker had gone on to be.
Right. It wasn't right. You saw a little bit of that in Jedi, when he comes back to Jabba's palace, but not really,
Yeah, he took on one Rancor.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't even armor plated.
Yes, I mean, yeah. Didn't really. It wasn't a showcase for
right.
Jedi
but when when the Mandalorian falls into the Sarlacc pit that they were going to throw. Now see what Joe has successfully done.
Take it over, Patton Oswalt.
Andor should be great. I'm very looking forward to that. I messed up. I didn't mess up this week.
I just wish they'd make up their mind. Yeah.
I knew.
Shut up, Joe.
No, you keep doubling down, baby. I messed up insofar as I thought that Daredevil was going to be 8 episodes, so I haven't watched the 8th one because I was trying to coordinate watching it with our friend Sully. Turns out that next week. That they were going to be
Snugglefest,
right?
2?
That they were going to be. They have pitched an 18 episode season, but we know in the world of streaming, you can't. No one has 2 TVs, so they split 2 9 episode seasons. So
how many episodes?
9. So I didn't watch 8 thinking, I got to coordinate with Mike. And then I reached out, I'm like, hey, have you seen this yet? He goes, oh, yeah, it was great. I said, oh, I thought we were going to watch it together. He goes, no, we're watching the last finale together. I'm like, oh, I'm as dumb as Joe and my wife and my kids and
the courts
and the other comedians have all said. Because I've been like, I've it's up on my bulletin board. Don't ask why, because there's no reason to, but I've wanted to write a reboot for the Titus 2000 to 2002 2.5 season sitcom. I would like to do it for Norm, but the casting is going to be a little harder. But I've been powering through, almost done with season 2 of that. So, and I'm using them. I'm not wasting time. That's research. I have to watch every episode of a show that has been off the air for 23 seasons in order to prep for this, is what I'm saying. So that's what I've been watching.
And I'm trying to keep reminding Jacques that Christopher Titus and gang did reunite a couple of years ago, just after the quarantine broke, to film a YouTube direct sequel episode, like a coda, if you will, to the Titus show. That's up there.
Right.
So they did reunite.
I will be watching that, but I think we can all agree I will probably write a better reboot than all of them with my years of experience and my overwhelming talent. Agreed?
That's my impersonation of.
The only other thing I watched this week, and I said I wasn't going to, but I had an unexpected night home alone. Have you heard of this movie, Mickey 17?
Yeah, I've heard of it. It's good. Ain't it?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a sci-fi, futuristic, romance, action movie that has some levity to it.
Yep.
And it was directed by the guy, I believe, who did Parasite.
Oh, okay.
And that's its.
Oh, right. The Korean,
buzz around it. Yeah.
Korean director. Yeah, he was on Colbert, I think, promoting it like this past month. Yeah.
And it stars. What did I rank him? Like the 5th best live action Batman.
Robert Pattinson.
So I mean, and look, hey, he played Batman and did okay. Wasn't the worst.
Do I have to watch the other 16 Mickeys?
You really do.
Okay.
I mean, because I halfway through, I'm like,
oh, dad jokes.
Man, hopefully Mike Hesse's on his Plex because, but it is. It was fun. It was interesting. It's not convoluted, but there's a lot going on.
Is it like? I mean, have you seen everything everywhere all at once?
Nothing like that. It's more
Inception.
It's more like what's going on now. A failed politician who's trying to go to Mars, but in this case, it's this other planet that takes 4 years to go to. And they have to do a lot of research on the way to this is not giving anything away. And that's played by Mark Ruffalo. And he's not a good guy. And it's kind of started a religion. So people are lining up to kind of be part of this never done before. Let's go to deep space. Let's find a new world to build a utopia. And there's one guy. They have this one job opening, and this one guy takes it where he dies a lot. But his memories are uploaded, and they just print. It takes like 21 hours to print out a new body.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so he is Mickey 17 because he has died 16 times before this.
I see.
And some of his deaths are, well, we might be encountering some bad hombres where we're going. Let's come up with this chemical thing that could kill people. Let's see how it affects a human. And like literally this guy has a pretty horrible existence.
Wow. That sounds like fun.
It is. It's fun. Look, I'm glad I didn't have to pay $100 to go see it in the theater with, management, a couple kids, and buy some Skittles.
We can save that money to go see The Luckiest Man in America. Probably still playing in theaters. I don't know.
What time is it now? Why didn't we just go and see
We should have done the podcast from the movie theater.
100%.
Dummies.
Because it was playing down the street low. Anyways, that's all I'm watching. And unless you're watching anything else, it's great.
No, I'm watching nothing but crap otherwise. Just wasting my time.
You got any good parenting tips? Like learn to do your own taxes, you bastard?
Yeah. Sure. A parenting tip. Yeah, I did. I filed for a parenting tip. And I'm due to get it in a couple of weeks. It's like more of a direct deposit deal. So once I get it, you will be the first to hear.
Here's my parenting tip. I've always been my son's free Ubers, always driving their friends around. And I'm still happy to do it. But my parenting tip is now they're at that age where, let's say, they're interested in a special someone. And you, with shitty planning and no prompting, expect me to drop what I'm doing and go from point A to point B and drop that person off. My parenting tip is I'll do it. But so I was just my little guy had a couple friends over, but one friend is more of a friend than the other friends, and I had to drive this last home with him, and very nice, very polite. Halfway there, and it was only about a 5-minute drive. I just turned to my child and I say, "There's nothing wrong with her ears," which
yeah. Oh,
the comedy ensued. So my parenting tip is never miss the opportunity to spend quality time with your teenage son and a girl he's trying to impress, because the comedy for me, endless.
Well done. Well done. That's a parenting tip for the ages. Yeah. Well, thank you all for listening to this in-person edition of Carnival Personnel Podcast, available on all streamers. If you missed anything, just hit the replay button on the podcast. I'm sure you missed a lot of stuff. I know I did. I know I zoned out half the time. Like right in the middle of that sentence, I think I had like a mild stroke. I'm looking at a Rogue One doll with a Jyn Erso right behind Jacques there. Look at all this crap. Look at all this crap. This is like a fucking TGI Fridays. A lot of crazy crap on the walls. You got the Miss Pac-Man miniature arcade machine. You got the Golden Girls B. Arthur Chia head, which I think I got you. Yes. Oh my God. I mean, this is like the 80s version of Wheel of Fortune when you would win the bonus prizes. There's a Blues Clues notepad, of course. Yeah, the handy dandy notebook. There's a lot of stuff.
Wife's high school graduation picture.
Wife's high. You know what? There's only a handful of those available. So that is is it signed? Is it a rookie one? Oh man, there's so much stuff. Like there's this hockey photos and.
All-Star Tommy.
Okay, All-Star Tommy from FNH.
Adam Oates, NHL Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a microphone next to your mouth if you want to.
I'll take the.
Yeah. All right, for $200, I'll take the photo of Jacques at age 20 or 19-ish, 21, smiling. And then I'll take the Tom Collins mix from the 1960s that Joe found in his landlord's unit as they were throwing stuff away. And then the rest I'll put on the gift certificate. Thank you. And then, of course, there's the bottle, a whole half bottle of Old Doc Craze Lilac Vegetal. Oh, man. Yes. It is from both of us. Yeah. And then, of course, some pop figurines, because we all have the pop figures. I at our home, we have, Alex Trebek, which was gifted to me by one Jacques Lambert. And then I also have a Weird Al one. But here we have Ben Solo and Ahsoka. So, and they're both not at all soulless with their black eyes, like a doll's eyes. Oh, and then, every time I walk into a toy store and I see like the walls of like Funko Pop, I just think of like, what are we doing to this goddamned planet? Like all of this shit. Like, what is it? Like, yeah, I have Nintendo games from the 80s that are in plastic shells and stuff. Fine. Yes. Are they twice as large as the boards that they're encasing? Yes. That said, I think those will break down faster than these Funkos that are fucking plaguing the planet. And for what? For what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's why I say let the Trump administration just do what they please. I say, we bought our tickets. I say let them crash. No, I'm just kidding. We have to fight back with all of our might and all that shit. Anyway, and I just want to give a shout out to a friend of the podcast, Formal Edition's own Steve Cole, who is the captain who plays. He's the captain of the Lexington Minuteman, Captain John Parker, and the Lexington Minutemen, the reenactor guys. They're doing the big media blitz this week because this Saturday, April 19th, will be the 250th anniversary of the battles of Lexington and Concord from 1775. And those battles kickstarted this little country, this little experiment of ours, failed experiment, I should say. Who knows? I'm being glib, but no, I'm proud of Steve and his work and his activities with the Lexington Minuteman, keeping the history alive. We say we're big historians. We're constantly looking at the past. We're trying to learn from it. And, here's Steve actively teaching people about the history of the Lexington Minuteman, and the accuracy, they're not glossing over certain things. They're not rewriting history. They're showing you how things were fought for and how things were. So if you're in the Lexington area on Saturday, the April 19th, at say 5:30 in the morning, I would say go on down to the Lexington Battle Green and see yourself quite the sight. A Battle of Lexington reenactment, which I and my wife have witnessed early in our relationship, I think 90. Gee, was it 99? It could have been 1999, April of 19, because it's every April whatever. Yeah, we saw that. Anyways, he played, our friend Steve played William Diamond, the drummer, the teenage drummer. He's a little long in the tooth to play that now, so now he's playing Captain John Parker. But go online on WBZ's website. I think they're going to have a bunch of interstitials, little promos, 30-second promos with a bunch of folks from the Lexington Minuteman, including our own Steve Cole, who they just sort of inhabit the WBZ TV studio to hilarious effect. I applauded Steve on his return to comedy on television. Not since the days of Formal Edition have we seen such a sight. So yes, good for the Lexington Minuteman, good for America. I don't think Trump is going to be coming by Massachusetts. I think that's like a sunlight to a vampire, going to Massachusetts. Although I'm sure one of those fucking ghouls will, tread on our ground, and I'm sure a lot of people will accept them. They'll make a speech. I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to piss on the whole thing, whatever. It'll be fun. So, yeah, I think that's enough out of us. What else is there? How much time I got left? WRAP. Gotta wrap it up, baby. That's enough. All right. End transmission. Over. Don't forget,